When Alexander the Great's military campaigns finally receded from the edges of India in the 4th century BCE, they left a massive power vacuum in their wake. Northwestern India became a highly volatile landscape, ripe for a new power to seize control. That control was claimed by the rising Indian emperor Chandragupta Maurya. After a period of intense conflict, he secured a major diplomatic treaty with the Greek ruler Seleucus Nicator, establishing a fragile but necessary peace between the two empires. To cement this new alliance, Seleucus sent a Greek ambassador named Megasthenes directly into the heart of the Mauryan court. Megasthenes found himself living among a culture vastly different from his own, right at the political epicenter of the empire. He spent his time meticulously documenting everything he witnessed. He wrote detailed accounts of the local economy, the administrative laws, the military structure, and the daily lives of the citizens. He compiled all of these observations into a monumental manuscript known as Indica. But there is a massive catch. Indica is completely lost. No original copy exists today. Sometime in the ancient past, the physical text dissolved into dust, taking Megasthenes' original words with it. This leaves historians with a sharp irony. The most detailed contemporary window we have into ancient India's greatest empire is a book that no one can actually read. Before it disappeared, the text detailed Megasthenes' arrival in the Mauryan capital of Pataliputra. His first impression was dominated by its physical scale. He described a sprawling, wealthy metropolis that dwarfed the Greek cities he knew. He noted the city's sophisticated defensive engineering. Pataliputra was protected by massive wooden palisades pierced with hundreds of arrow slits, surrounded by a deep defensive trench that doubled as the city's sewage system. Inside those walls, the capital ran on a highly organized bureaucracy. Megasthenes documented a strict administrative system where different councils of officials were assigned specific, rigid responsibilities, managing everything from tax collection to the upkeep of public works. That strict organization extended to the state's military. Chandragupta maintained a massive standing army of infantry, chariots, and cavalry, large enough to exert control over a vast stretch of northern India. Their tactical advantage relied heavily on their armored elephant cavalry. In ancient warfare, these trained animals operated like heavily armored tanks, capable of shattering enemy infantry lines and projecting immense psychological fear. To fund this massive military and bureaucratic apparatus, the Mauryans relied on productive agriculture. He noted the fertile land and how the complex river networks provided the essential water needed to sustain their crop yields. To a Greek outsider, Pataliputra appeared as a perfectly engineered machine, designed from the ground up to project military and economic dominance. However, Indica is an inherently biased document. Megasthenes was analyzing India through a foreign, Hellenistic lens, which led to significant distortions. He attempted to logically categorize the complexity of Indian society into 7 distinct occupational classes, trying to map Greek concepts of social order onto a foreign population. This diagram represents his structural error. His 7-tiered categorization misread the nuances of the native Varna system. He confused professions with rigid societal castes, creating a model that does not align with surviving Indian records. Compounding these societal misunderstandings, he recorded local hearsay and mythological stories as absolute fact, weaving supernatural creatures directly into his official diplomatic reports. Yet his geographical and environmental observations were razor-sharp. His detailed notes on the specific crops, the climate, and the behavior of the river systems proved to be accurate. Identifying these specific cultural biases allows researchers to isolate the reliable data, separating Megasthenes' misunderstandings from his first-hand observations of the environment. Which brings us back to our missing book. If the original manuscript turned to dust thousands of years ago, how do we know about his flawed social pyramids or his descriptions of war elephants in the first place? The survival mechanism lies in quotation. Later Greco-Roman scholars were so captivated by Megasthenes' descriptions of this distant empire that they heavily cited his work in their own writings. Writers and historians like Strabo, Arrian, Diodorus, and Pliny copied entire paragraphs of Indica into their own manuscripts. Over the centuries, researchers have manually extracted these specific mentions from across dozens of surviving Greek and Roman texts, reassembling the scattered fragments into a reconstructed version of the original work. But these salvaged Greek fragments remain incomplete on their own. To verify what Megasthenes actually saw, historians cross-reference his claims with native Indian literary sources and archaeological data to fill in the missing context. Combining these Greek observations with domestic Indian records provides a more detailed perspective on the Mauryan era than either source could offer alone. Today, these surviving fragments connect the classical Mediterranean world to the administrative and military realities of early India. It forces us to ask an interesting question. Let us know down in the comments. How might an outsider's biased, highly detailed perspective rewrite the way you view your own country's history today?